Episode 119 of the Bronx Bomber Babble podcast is a very special double feature. In the first half of tonight's episode, G and Andrew break down the Yankees' hot start to the beginning of June, stretching their division lead to double digits over the Jays, Rays, and Red Sox. In the second half of tonight's episode, the crew will get into the biggest series of the year against the Houston Astros. And we are live for the 119th episode of the Bronx Bomber Babble podcast, sponsored by Six Pack Coverage. What's going on, everyone? Andrew here tonight, joined by G. It's been about 2 weeks since our last podcast, but the Yankees just continue to win 12-3 over their last 15 games since we last recorded an episode. G, fresh off a series win against Tampa Bay. How are we feeling? What's going on tonight?
I'm feeling great, and I will tell you why. Because not only did they take 2 out of 3 from Tampa Bay in this most recent series that just ended literally like less than an hour ago, they swept them a week ago, which was great. They went into Tampa, this week they went into Tampa. Last week they were at home against Tampa. But they played 6 games against Tampa and played basically Tampa Bay's game, where it's like, close, hard-fought, that very like nail-biting games, pitching-oriented games, and they beat them 5 out of 6 at their own game. So I love that. And this Yankees team, and Tampa Bay is always going to be tough and annoying, and that's what I was literally thinking about for like 7 innings of today's game before events transpired. I was like, this is such an annoying Tampa Bay like loss, where it's just like, yeah, you just don't do anything and then maybe score a couple runs and still lose. So they were on their way to a pretty annoying like Tampa Bay loss, and they, pulled it out, and they got 2 out of 3 this week against the Rays. They got the sweep last week, 12-3 since the last pod, and the Yankees are on pace for whatever it is, like 118 wins, which is very silly and probably not going to happen, but like, hey, why not? So Yankees are fun and good, and I love that.
Yeah, it has been, for sure, just a magic carpet type ride. We did record on Monday the 6th. I don't know if the podcast came out until midway through that Minnesota series, but the Yankees obviously took 2 out of 3, had one really bad loss in that series. That was the game that Garrett Cole just got absolutely hammered in. I remember people melting down like, oh, is this it? Is he back to being Spider Tack Merchant? Is he ready to break down? And then, of course, he's been dominant since. Took a no-hitter into the 8th against Tampa in his this past start out. The Yankees absolutely bludgeoned the Chicago Cubs the following weekend. There was that Jose Trevino walk-off on Friday night, and then 2 just bloodbath games, 8-0 and 18-4. And then, like you said, 6 of the last 9 games have been against Tampa Bay. And in annoying fashion, these guys always know how to pitch to us. And then you get random players like Isaac Paredes, today Vidal Brujan, I think Harold Ramirez hit one too. Like, just like random, and Ramirez has been pretty good for them, but the other 2 guys, they're kind of just there. I know Paredes leads the team in home runs now because he's hit like 5 against us in the last week and a half. But man, it's very weird when you watch the Yankees play against Tampa Bay, because no matter how well the offense is clicking, they always know how to pitch to us. Like, look at the games that they won at home: a 2-0 win, a 4-3 win, and then a 2-1 win that came via Anthony Rizzo walk-off home run, and then a 4-2 win on Monday. They lost 5-4 yesterday and scored 2 of those 4 runs in the 9th inning, and then a 5-4 win today, which I think was the most exciting of those 6 games. You can make an argument the Rizzo walk-off as well, but like, these Tampa Bay games are always just so annoying, and they always feel like they count for more than any other game, and every game counts the same. I know with the division rival, you could say technically you could gain 1 or lose 1, so it's a 2-game swing there. I get it, but I'm excited not to have to play these guys for like another month and a half, because I can't do it emotionally. Thank God they took care of business, winning 5 out of 6.
Yeah, and I think if you're going to say, if anything, that they counted extra, it's more just like Tampa's had the Yankees number for like a few years now, and this Yankees team, 1, is just good, 2 is very confident, and they just seem like unbothered by the presence of Tampa Bay. And I think that's important that this is a team that has been a thorn in their side and been, frankly, kind of better than them pretty comfortably for the last couple of years, um, especially last year. But I think that's important where it's like this Yankees team seems completely unbothered and willing to play Tampa Bay's game, and they beat him, and they beat him 7 out of 10 games so far this season, and that's pretty great.
Yeah, if there's any takeaway from that, it's that the Yankees going into any matchup against Tampa Bay last year, you knew that we were in for a rough slide. And I remember that final regular season series where we had 3 games. We only needed to win one to clinch a wild card spot. You needed one with help or 2 wins to host the wild card game, and they came out and they got flattened in the first 2 games. And you're really sitting there thinking to yourself, I know the 2021 team was a completely different story, but you're sitting there thinking to yourself, like, we're literally going to get swept at home and miss the playoffs because of these son of a bitch Rays who just know how to beat us. And they did walk off that game and went to the playoffs, but like it just part of me, even after we've beaten them 7 out of 10, I still haven't gotten over that PTSD type thing yet, where they completely owned us last year and didn't just win these ugly games. There was, the 4-3s, 3-2, 2-1 games. They won some games by some heavy margins last year, and then of course they beat us in the playoffs in 2020. So it's taken a while for me to actually like go into these games. At home it's a little different, but still every time they play in the Trop, I'm thinking to myself like tonight's gonna suck. Win, lose, whatever happens, like tonight's gonna suck. But yeah, like you said, they've taken 5 out of 6, 7 out of 10 overall in the season, and Tampa Bay, as well as every other team in the division, is very much so in the rearview mirror. So look, we got a huge series coming up against Houston, which we can get into later in the show. But as of right now, the Yankees really have nothing to worry about in terms of where they stand in the division because they've done such a good job taking care of business against everyone else in our division already this year.
Yeah, and I mean that's nice. I haven't heard too many people complain like, oh, they're only playing X, they're only playing whatever. Like, play who's on your schedule. The Yankees played. Um, they spent 2 weeks in May playing just the White Sox and the Orioles. Um, but they had some tough stretches of the schedule, and I think people were pointing to this stretch being like, oh, they play 6 against the Rays, they play 3 against the Blue Jays, they play the Astros. Like, that's a pretty, you know, impressively difficult 12 game, I guess it's 13 games they play 4 against. Either way, um, stretch. And so far they've handled their business. Um, so we'll just have to see against the Astros.
Yeah, right. I think this was the one part of the schedule, at least for me. Maybe if some other fans were just very confident where the team is, they didn't really think it mattered who they played. But I was worried about 3 at home versus Tampa. Then you have a 6 game road trip, 3 at Toronto, 3 at Tampa, come home for 4 against Houston. 3 against Oakland should be the underbelly of that, but then you go to Houston for 1 game, and that's the weird series that got split because it got canceled at the beginning of the year because of the lockout delay. Um, then they go to Cleveland, which they swept them at home, but Cleveland's a pretty good team right now. They go 2 at Pittsburgh. Again, should be winnable games, but then 4 at Boston. So there really is no extended stretch where they play weak teams for a long time. Even then, like after that Boston series, they play home 3 against the Reds, who are just atrocious. But then they play 3 more against Boston. So the Yankees have a really for the next month. There's going to be tough games on the schedule every week, and if they're gonna really earn it, it's going to be right here. And no one can say anything that they haven't played tough competition. But look, let's just quickly touch on some things that happened over the past 2 weeks since we last recorded. Um, Nestor Cortez hasn't looked great, hasn't looked awful, but hasn't really looked his dominant self. You had Luis Severino go on the COVID IL, come off a couple days later, made the starts, looked okay. The Yankees bullpen, particularly Miguel Castro, melted down in that game. That was on Father's Day. And then, of course, you had that game on June 12th where they scored 18 runs. Matt Carpenter had 2 home runs, and that was just the laughing stock game of the season. So, like, what in particular has stood out to you as a certain player, certain performance? Like, what's something you want to talk about here?
18 runs on the 12th. What else happened on the 12th?
No, I don't have to get into that. Don't worry about that.
I'm excited as just a far or medium in the future thing. Yankees get to go to Pittsburgh and see the phenom O'Neill Cruz, the 6'7" shortstop who threw a ball 98 miles an hour to first base the other night. So that's exciting. And otherwise, I would say, I mean, I think we could. It's probably a good idea to break down some of the matchups that are going to take place in this Houston series.
Yeah, we'll get there. I'm just
There.
saying, going back over the past few weeks, right? Like, what else can you say about Aaron Judge? At this point, he has to be the MVP frontrunner. I know a lot of people in Cleveland will tell you that Jose Ramirez should be in the conversation. I think coming into today, he may have had him beat in terms of on base percentage and OPS. Of course, Aaron Judge
Cool.
led in basically every other category, right? Home runs, slugging percentage, OPS plus. Uh, he's playing center field, which is a more strenuous position. So, look, Aaron Judge,
All right.
we
I'll
could
just
go
put it
on and
this
on talk
way.
about him all year.
Final, well, not final, but a thing about Aaron Judge. Over under. The over under I'm interested for Aaron Judge. Has he raised his price by over or under $100 million since opening day?
See, that's a good question,
Two
and we
hundred
can
and
actually talk
thirty
about.
million dollar offer. I guess, well, maybe including his salary. Either way, $210 million offer that he got from the Yankees that he passed up on opening day. And I think it's very fair to say that the asking price has gone up considerably.
I think 100 million is a good number that it's going to go up by, but part of the reason I think he may top 300 million is because the Yankees, like, if they want to retain him, they're going to have to add an extra year or two, which I know they absolutely don't want to do. But look, if it's a matter of paying Aaron Judge $35 million when he's 39 or 40 years old, to get him for the next 5, 6 years in his prime, doing what he's doing right now, like, you have to do that. I know those 2 years are going to suck, and hopefully you have enough around him on the roster that that's not going to kill you, right? So, like, in the NFL, if you have a quarterback who's just dreadful making $40 million, you're screwed. Same thing with the NBA. I was actually listening to WFAN today, and they were talking about how, like, players who are, once they hit that tipping point where they just kind of drop off. They mentioned Carmelo Anthony on the Knicks before they cut loose with him. Just like once you, or and even like Chris Paul right now, in the playoffs for the Suns. Like
He's
once you're
38. He has
yeah,
two more
once you hit a
years.
certain point, like, you can't. It's tough to overcome that. And then they also referenced Derek Jeter when he was at the end of his road in 2014, and you can mask that a little more because it's one player in a 9-player team. So I think the Yankees could
Yeah,
be in that
I mean,
position
for
where,
for that, I guess. Sorry to interrupt, but when you get to a point, it's just that like when you get to a certain age, you're just like definitively probably, maybe like you're going to be worse. Whether the degree to which you're worse is whatever, but like when you get to a certain age of your sports playing life, you're just going to be worse than you were the year before. So
but
like
look,
the
I think
Yankees
I think a
obviously
good
have a concern
parallel
about that.
to a type of contract, and certainly the money will be more. But like, look at Miguel Cabrera, look at Albert Pujols. Like, they're not remotely what they were, and obviously Pujols is on a new deal at this point. He signed the 1 year deal to retire with the Cardinals, and he's kind of playing the string on that this year. But Miguel Cabrera, like, he can still hit the ball, right? He's not doesn't have much in the way of power, but like at age, what, 36, 37 right now, he's just not remotely the same player that won the Triple Crown a decade ago. But
Which is funny because he also has 3 years left on his contract, and he's
yeah, but
39
my,
years
my, my
old.
point is, if that's the kind of situation the Yankees are in with Aaron Judge when he's 38 years old, you deal with it, because you cannot, and I can't stress enough, cannot afford to not have him on your roster for the next 3 to 4 years, especially if they're at a spot where we were talking about earlier this year. They didn't do enough in the offseason, and that whole championships, not championship type thing was closing fast. Well, with the way they are right now, they may be opening up a new window. And I get there's going to be a lot of roster questions, some of the other guys who are younger on that team earlier on are going to be coming up for contracts like Gleyber Torres in the next few years. Luis Severino will be a free agent again soon. So I can't just say that there's a brand new championship window right now, but there's no world in which you can afford to not have Aaron Judge. So yeah, he's going to get paid a lot of money, and he deserves every penny of it. And the Yankees are going to have to suck it up and give
I
him extra
mean,
years.
yeah, no, they are. I was going to say, even if you were doing something like 8 years for like 310, which is $38 million a year, something like that. I don't know. Get creative. Like, you don't have to give him 300 and whatever $1 million that you gave Cole, maybe. But I mean, at the same time, if he's going to be one of the very best players in baseball, that's what the market bears. That's what you got to pay him, and it'd be stupid not to pay him and not have him on your team. So either way, good for him because like it's not my money, right? I don't give a shit what Hal spends his money on, but pay the man, right? If he's earned it, you can't pay all the lip service to be like, oh, we love Aaron, blah blah blah. All right, just pay the man. Like it's fine. Hammer out the details any way you want, but pay the man his contract. He is, at this point, essentially, in my mind, the best player in baseball.
Yeah, for sure. So
So, with that being said, those players cost money, and you just got to pay him. Because how embarrassing, how stupid would the Yankees look if they did all this stuff and they did the thing, they released the contract details, and and then he winds up like that would be like these any and all good and who the hell knows what's going to happen this season, but any and all goodwill from this season would immediately be gone. So let's not have hopefully not have to worry about that.
no, and you have the arbitration hearing coming up on Friday, which technically
It's fine
speaking,
because he hit
they
2 home
can't.
runs tonight.
Yeah, well, they can't really use this year as a precursor for that because you have like this was supposed to happen, remember, in March. So technically speaking, the arbiters are not supposed to use anything that he's doing this year and to help make their decision. And the Yankees are still $4 million apart. And look, I know they're still gonna want to keep the salary down, but if they don't settle somewhere in the middle, or if they don't at the very least just say, look, let's see if we can get you talking on an extension again in season. I know he doesn't want to do that, but if they can get it, then like you got to try. You can't just go in and say, no, we're going to pay you $17 million. Screw you. I know you want 21. Like right now in the middle of this MVP campaign, he cannot do that.
If this isn't going to get the man paid, then nothing will. So plenty of other teams out there with money. Just Yankees have to it just get the man paid. That's all.
Yep. So other players I do want to touch upon before we look ahead to the big Houston series at home this week are just a couple players who've had some up and down weeks. We'll start with Anthony Rizzo. Rizzo obviously had the walk off shot on what was it last Wednesday, but it kind of seems like
A little bit of
he's
an
had a very
Islam.
weird season. Yeah, but like you look at his last 7 games, hitting 365, so he's definitely heating up. But before then,
He's on
he was.
pace for like 40 something home runs too now. So
Is he?
yeah, yeah,
Let's see,
he is.
he's at 19. Yeah, through 69 games. That's crazy. Yeah, but look, Rizzo just has the ability to come through in the clutch. We saw it with the bases loaded single he had against LA a couple weeks ago. I think he had a big hit. Or he had a grand slam, obviously against Toronto as well. Like this dude, even if the numbers don't look ultra impressive, like 231 batting average, and a batting average doesn't really mean all that much. 336 on base percentage could be better, but like he's coming through in the clutch. The OPS looks good. Rizzo is awesome. Giancarlo Stanton has been in a world of a funk since coming back from the IL about a month ago. I get the spot. You know what? It might have been right before our last podcast is when they activated him. Now I believe he's hit maybe 1 or 2 home runs in that stretch. Yeah, so he has 3 home runs in his last 15 games, but he's hitting 111. He's drawing some walks. His on base percentage is 322, but he has 12 strikeouts in 45 at bats. That's not that bad. The 111 batting average is brutal. And to take it a little step further, he's 0-42 over the last 7 games. So like he's kind of feast or famine right now, but you know he'll figure it out. And when he's hot, he's nuclear. So the Yankees are winning games in spite of him. That's fine. Um, I'm gonna give two more names, and I'm gonna stop talking because I'm sure people are already getting sick and tired of hearing my voice. But Aaron Hicks had a week. Do you wanna talk about that?
I mean, it's only fair to Aaron Hicks because we've just been mercilessly just crapping on him all season. So let's give the man some shine.
Yeah, look, Aaron Hicks, one of the worst clutch hitters on this team statistically, not only this year, but over the past 2 or 3 years, and came up with a pair of really, really big hits this week. He had obviously the bases clearing double off Alek Manoah on Saturday in a game the Yankees won 4-0. So that was a huge game winning hit for him there. And you could tell how fired up he was. And then he had the RBI double. Um, RIP Manuel Margot, by the way, against Tampa Bay on Monday, which gave the Yankees the go ahead run to win that game. And
Yeah, he was like
look,
really hooting and hollering on third base there, which was pretty cool.
and good for him because he's had a disastrous start to the year, but over the last month or so, he's not hitting that poorly, right? So last 15 games, 271, 340 OBP, slugging percentage is down a little bit, right? But he does have 7 RBIs, and I think he only had like 10 the whole season before then. So I remember he asked, or Meredith Marakovitz asked him the other night, like, what is working for you? Like, how are you starting to turn your season around? And he made a good point. He said, I'm just playing more. And we kind of insinuated this earlier in the year, but like the lack of playing time because he's had all these injuries the past few years, I think he really just had a lot of rust. I'm not going to say he's going to be the player that he was in 2017, 2018, 2019, but look, there's definitely a lot of rust on that body that he needed to shake off, and he's starting to figure it out, and that's a huge help for the Yankees.
It is, and also I'd say like, I mean, he's not like a $30 million a year contract guy, but I mean, he is a contract guy. They gave him a long-term contract, and obviously he's going through a phase. He's going through a different, or arriving at a different phase of his career. Aaron Judge is the center fielder now. Aaron Judge and Rizzo and Leahy, like those are the leadoff hitters now. So it's just a different adjustment. I think obviously it helps that he plays more, knocks off the rust, and all that type of stuff. But I think it's good for him that he just has had time to adjust to the fact that it's like, hey, less pressure, maybe. Like you have to hit, you have to be a valuable contributor, but you don't have to be the 270 batting average with 25 home runs and 80 RBIs leadoff hitter that's going to have like a whatever 400 on base percentage. Like you don't have to be that guy. You just have to be like a meaningful contributor who can play a few innings in center field and play in left field and get a single or a double and maybe a home run here or there. Like so, it's obviously good that he gets playing time and knocks off the rust and all that stuff. But I think it's probably just helping him as he goes along to like acclimate to his new, I guess, place on the team.
Which look, if that's the role he's accepting at this point, and he starts performing, like that's fine. We'll take it. One other guy I do want to touch on real quick before we move on. I'm going to do another one of those fun segments we did last time next, so get ready for that. But Joey Gallo, it really looked like he had started turning a corner, and the last week has just been just painful. The last 2 weeks, really. I know he has a couple home runs mixed in. But like over his last 7 games, he struck out 9 times in 16 at bats. He has just the one home run, which was the garbage time home run in that game. They blew out Toronto on Friday night. Just he's playing pretty decent out in the outfield. I think he's playing a lot of right field with Judge in center, and he's looking good there. But he just leaves so much to be desired, and I'm getting tired of just talking about this guy over and over and over again. And like I almost want all those people who I've just disagreed with the whole year, who are like trying to convince me that he's some great player. I almost at a point I just want them to be right, so I don't have to push the same shitty narrative over and over again. But here we are.
Yeah, I mean, I think the ship has sailed. Anything the Yankees get from Gal at this point is gravy. And I think before too long, you're going to start to hear about, like, hey, the Yankees are looking for outfielders. Yankees, gauging what they could get for Joey Gallo. Like, it was fun, and he hit 40 home runs last year, and that would have been pretty cool if he would have hit a bunch of home runs for the Yankees, even if he was batting 200. But like, he doesn't, and he hasn't. And if you're going to be as utterly miserable as he is on offense, you have to be basically the best defender at your position, and he's not. So, um, all that we talked about, the Miguel Andujar thing that happened a couple weeks ago, it'd be perfectly fine bringing him up and playing him more, platooning or whatever. But otherwise, I think the ship has sailed on Gallo, and I think before too long, you're going to start to hear that manifest itself in trade rumors. And until then, he can rot on the bench because he sucks.
So that's actually an interesting point because that's a kind of where I was going to transition right here anyway. So I want you to think of one player, position, role, batting order, whatever. Just think of like one change you would make to this team and implement starting tomorrow. And I don't know if you want to type it out to me or if you want to I'll just give you the floor if you have your guy, if you have your move already ready. But come up with one change you would make to this team right now. And I know it's hard to change anything with the way they're playing, but one thing that you think could improve the team go forward. So I will let you go first. I have mine in mind, but I will save that for second.
Right. And while I finalize that in my brain, I'm just going to give some shine to someone who I've already tipped my cap to a couple times this year, but shout out to Gleyber Torres. Um, last 7 games, 348, 400 on base. And last 15 games, 294, 379. Hitting home runs, playing great defense, looking all around like he is only 25 Gleyber Torres from the last whatever time he was good, and people thought he was good. So pretty cool turnaround season for him so far. Hopefully he keeps it going, and otherwise that's pretty it's nice. It's very, very good for the Yankees obviously, and good for Gleyber Torres that he's resurrecting his career. So I love that. So the one move that I would make is to immediately trade for a different shortstop and stop playing Isaiah Kiner-Falefa every day.
Damn
It's
it,
kind of a
man.
cop-out answer.
Damn it, no, that was my answer. And I don't see that you're just where are you going with that? Because I had like a very specific thing in mind. But I don't know where you're
I
going
mean,
with that.
all
You
right.
took mine.
No, I mean, all right. That's all right. Hold on a second. Yours is probably much more well-formed, but I'll just say this. Honestly, at this point, I would just play Marwin Gonzalez every day until.
That's exactly where I was going with that because I think
Okay, fair enough.
I think if you look at what Marwin's done, he's as capable as a defender, and I think he offers a little more with the bat, and he's not going to provide the speed. But like if IKF is only going to be a speed guy, then he could just be a pinch runner, could be a late in defensive replacement guy if they need him. But I think Marwin offers more with the bat, and you don't lose anything defensively. So there's really no net loss there. In fact, you're probably gaining. So the team's already winning. If you can add a little more production in that, I think you look at WAR, you look at OPS, you look at stuff like defensive run saved. I think Marwin's a net improvement in all three of those categories. So Yankees are better off with that, and that's exactly where I was going. So I'm whatever. We agreed on that unintentionally, but that's funny.
I was gonna say, well, yeah. So I mean, obviously, Kiner-Falefa, he batted like whatever, like 270, 280 or something. Like he had a pretty decent batting average last year. Pretty sure like 75% of his hits were singles. I don't really care about that. We didn't really get him for offense, but like, we got him for defense, and his defense has been underwhelming. And he just generally, by the eye test, has been a very annoying player to watch. So yeah, I'd say who knows what shortstops, who might become available if the Yankees, at the deadline, or if the Yankees just decide to say fuck it, full send, and bring up Anthony Volpe, or what's the Oswald Peraza, or they have any option they could take. But I'd say Kiner-Falefa was a stopgap anyway, so just like whatever.
I think that's the problem is that the Yankees, we talked about it all winter, is that they didn't want to commit to a big 8 to 10 year contract on a shortstop. A guy like Corey Seager, a guy like Marcus Semien, a guy like Trevor Story or Carlos Correa. It's because they have these guys in the minors But I think part of what we were so angsty about this year is that we knew that those guys weren't ready for the start of the season, and they probably wouldn't even be ready by June. And here we are. And yeah, I get Connor Flev has been okay. Marwin's been okay. Glaber started there the other night and looked okay. Like Glaber's fine wherever he starts. I'm not worried about him. I don't want him to be the everyday shortstop again, but like if he plays there 30 to 40 times this year, it's not going to bother
I'm
me.
pretty sure he
Uh,
doesn't want himself to be the shortstop every day either.
Probably
So
not. You're probably right. But I guess the point I'm getting at here is that we knew Peraza, Cabrera, Volpe, all those guys wouldn't be ready for this season. And so, yeah, Connor Fluff is kind of a stopgap guy. But if you got to carry him throughout the whole season, are you just going to deal with that? Are you going to deal with him being in your everyday shortstop for the rest of this year and just say, hey, look, it's working, don't rock the boat? Or are they going to make an addition at the trade deadline? And I don't even know where you go if that's the case.
they should call up the Red Sox and trade for Xander Bogaerts.
Yeah, obviously that's happening.
Call up the Phillies. Trade for old friend Didi Gregorius.
Oh, geez, please no. That's worse.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Connor Fluff was supposed to be your stopgap, so obviously it's not great if you're looking for another one. But even if you batted him at this point eighth or ninth most days, and just like said whatever, he's just gonna play shortstop, platoon him with Marwin, and put Glaber over there for 30 games, like you said. I don't know. It's just like he's not a tremendously important player, but he's very annoying to watch on a daily basis. So if
Yeah,
they
I'm
could
just
find
looking
a
at
low cost way to replace him, then I would be okay with it.
if you look at the shortstops by WAR across all of Major League Baseball right now, um, the guys who are going to be available are underwhelming. So I'm going to give you the top 10 names in terms of WAR as of right now per Fangraphs. So you have Xander Bogaerts, obviously not going anywhere. Tommy Edman, Cardinals are right in the thick of it in their division. They're not trading their starting shortstop. Dansby Swanson, starting shortstop on the defending World Series champion, he's not going anywhere. Trey Turner, who plays the outfield as well, but like he's a super utility guy for the Dodgers. Obviously, he's not going anywhere. You have Jeremy Pena, who the Astros just brought up to replace Carlos Correa, who's been very impressive as a rookie. Certainly, they're not trading him. Francisco Lindor, even if the Yankees wanted him, even if the Mets wanted, like the contract is like immovable, and you're not trading with the Mets anyway. And then you have Corey Seager. You have J.P. Crawford, who maybe if that's the direction you want to go, and then Bobby Witt Jr., who's has a lot of promise as a rookie for the Kansas City Royals. Um, those are the top 9 guys in terms of WAR, and Crawford's the only guy you could see potentially getting moved as the Mariners maybe out of it. But like, what are you going to get from him offensively that that kind of Fluff is really not offering? Um, he's not really a
I
great
mean, I think
defender.
kind of Fluff
Crawford.
upgrading shortstop at this point, I feel like would be like kind of a luxury. I mean,
Yeah,
if they can find an option, then yes, I would say do it. But um, I don't know. It's not like super terribly pressing. More so than just being like I would just play Marwin a little bit more. And otherwise, I was gonna say my second answer for this was to be like make Jose Trevino like the starter, quote unquote. But he's played in more games this year than Higashioka, so I guess that's sort of kind of happening.
and
And
deservedly so. Like let's go give a quick shout out to Trav Dog for another gigantic home run tonight to put the Yankees on top. Gave them the lead that they would not forfeit against the Tampa Bay Rays. I look, I actually was sitting on my couch quietly thinking like, well, if they want to score this inning, if they want to score, come back and beat them, it's got to be this inning. Kind of left a let off of the walk. I think he was running on a 3-2 pitch, and as soon as Trevino hit that, I was just like, holy
and
shit! Like it
the
took me
pitcher,
completely off
what's
guard.
his name, Garza threw over like 10 times that at bat. He was like really bothered by Connor Fluff on the bases, which is
And
nice.
he
Also,
wasn't
I guess
finding the
shout out
strike
to
zone to
him.
begin with.
No, it was miserable at bat for him. He was not. He did not look like he was comfortable pitching at all. Like from the first pitch of the inning. Um,
And obviously, with the 3 batter rule, you can't even take him out until he's faced 3 guys
yeah,
or he got hurt. So that wasn't going to his favor. So yeah, look, Trevino got it
Jose
done.
Trevino.
We love him. We're so happy he's a Yankee. He should be the starter for the AL in the All Star game. But
He's
I
got to be
think
what, like the 100th percentile in pitch framing. Like he's
it's what he
so.
was earlier in the year. I can't imagine he's fallen off much if he is. So like I'll say this, like it's probably going to be Alejandro Kirk, and he definitely deserves it as well. Been really good offensively. Um, Surprisingly good arm too behind the plate. But I would love to see Jose Trevino. Jose Trevino, a guy we got for Albert Abreu, who by the way we just reacquired,
On
to
the
be a
last
backup,
day of
to be
spring training,
to be
basically.
a backup defensive first catcher who turns himself into the starter for the American League in the All Star game that summer. That would be truly hilarious.
And according to Baseball Savant, he currently has the highest strike rate of catchers in baseball, 53.5%.
Nice, hell yeah. So I do want to touch on a few other things before we go ahead and finally get to this Houston preview. The Yankees have a couple players starting rehabs or about to start rehabs. Domingo Germán is, I believe, at Tampa as of tonight, Wednesday night, the 22nd. Aroldis Chapman should be going to Double-A Somerset this weekend, and Jonathan Loaizaga started throwing from 120 feet today or yesterday. So he should be. I've seen him in the dugout the past few days, so he's definitely with the team working out. So he should be going on a rehab assignment soon. So to get three of those guys back in the bullpen, obviously Herman hasn't pitched all year, but um, there's upside in that arm. I hope he doesn't rock the boat, but obviously if you get Chapman back healthy, you would hope a lot of his poor performance earlier was due to the injury. Same thing with Loaizaga. It was the same shoulder injury he had at the end of last year, so maybe he just needed to reboot, rest himself a little bit, and he should be fine. We hope. If that's the case, then you're 6, 7 deep in the bullpen, which is awesome because King looks phenomenal. Clay Holmes is arguably the best reliever in all of baseball. Clark Schmidt has some upside in his arm. Miguel Castro is either terrible or unhittable. So the Yankees bullpen's in a good
Yeah.
spot.
And Zach Britton, we
Oh, you
all
want to talk about Zach
anticipate.
Britton?
Yeah, I hate him. No. Zach Britton, the pitcher who I love to casually or otherwise complain about, was playing catch slash pitching. Brian Hook called it pitching, said he was going to pitch at the minor league complex in Tampa yesterday. So he was throwing a baseball at the complex in Tampa yesterday. And I mean, I don't know. I think the last time we heard about it was that they anticipated him being available maybe sooner than we all think, like maybe August.
Yeah.
And as much as I like to complain about him, he is good, and I would say he's pretty comfortably better than Miguel Castro. So, different hand and all that stuff, whatever. But like, um, Chapman obviously is Chapman. He's good and useful, hard throwing lefty with the slider and all that stuff. Lasagna is, the fireman, the every inning man. He's got stuff for every inning, or every situation you want to bring him in. Um, and Herman is, I don't know, maybe Nestor Cortez insurance, like a long reliever. Rather than have these guys like Ryan Weber or whomever, like the last man, you could have, Herman or whatever. Someone always gets hurt, so who knows? But
And here's
um,
one thing that I did notice with Nestor the past few starts is that I think he's gone 5 1/3, 4 1/3, or 4 1/3, 5 1/3, 4 1/3, or something to that effect. Is that yeah, part of that could be because of performance. He hasn't really looked super sharp. He hasn't gotten bludgeoned in any of those starts, given up no more than 4 runs in any of them. But I wonder if the Yankees are starting to think long term and they're limiting his innings and his pitch count now. So that's the spot where, yeah, you would want a guy like Herman in. So say, hey, look, hey, if we're playing a weak opponent or whatever, just a designated day that insert starter here is only going to go 4 innings, just based on gameplay, right? Like we just got to limit you now. It's the game in the middle of July. We'll let you unleash again in September and October, obviously when we need you. But like right now, we're gonna save a few bullets and we're gonna split 7 innings between two guys. Say like I could see them doing that. Like that's fine. especially if they have
Yes.
the cushion they have in the division where they can afford to give up a game or two if something went off the rails.
And Herman is a good pitcher. Like he is. He's been a very effective, very pretty good pitcher. He was really good for stretches when he pitched out of the bullpen, and he was also pretty darn good for stretches when he pitched out of the rotation. So he's got good stuff, and he could be useful. He'd be really useful for the Yankees. And obviously Chad Green's hurt, so like a guy who's pitched out of the bullpen, um, and just been an effective big league pitcher, to add that guy to the bullpen or to the pitching staff in general is going to be good. So I'd say it's funny just to be like, oh well, they have not had a ton of injuries, but like, Green is gone for the year. Britton was a long-term injury that eventually they're going to get back, but otherwise, like, they haven't had a ton of injuries, but like they have been so good, and help is like on the way now, even more so. So that's pretty nice for the Yankees.
Yeah, well, with Green, I don't know if I heard you correctly. Like he's probably done. Like they'd have to re-sign him. He's gonna miss the rest of this year and probably part of next year. And he's a free agent to be. So pour one out to Swag Green, Bad Green, whatever you want to call him.
I
Worst
mean,
time
we could
to
call
have
them both. If anything, maybe he'll get like the Adam Warren, like 2 years. First year is just like a charity. Second year
Well, you've
rehab
seen
kind
a
of
bunch of
deal.
other teams do that with Yankees pitchers over the last few years. Paxton got a 2-year deal with the Red Sox this year, coming off Tommy John that he had with the Mariners last year. You had someone else's name just escapes me who just got a deal similar. Another former Yankee who had Tommy John surgery. Help me out here.
Yeah, I got nothing, dog.
All right. Well, it'll come back to me later on. They got a 2-year deal as well. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Well, I think this is a good place to call it a show. I'd really like to get back into the habit of doing shows every week or every 10 days as opposed to every 2 weeks, but it's been a busy stretch for everyone. And look, the Yankees keep winning and everything is all good. So we'll be here to go through it all. Like God forbid, I don't want to say God forbid because that means like you don't want something to happen. Like in the event that some crazy Aaron Judge news happens with his contract over the next few days, we'll fire up another emergency pod. But until then, we should hopefully be back in a week or so. So this has been the 119th episode of the Bronx Farmer Battle podcast, sponsored by Six Pack Coverage. We'll catch you all next time.
The 0-1. That one's drilled deep to left field. Going back, Diaz looking up. See ya! A walk-off 3-run home run for Judge. And the Yankees win it. The Yankees go from no hit to no way is this happening again. A dramatic come from behind victory. And the Yankees split 4 with the Astros.
Welcome back, everyone, to the second half of episode 119 of the Bronx Bomber Babble podcast. As you can see, it is no longer Andrew and G because we are now recording this after the Astros series. As I am Alex. Andrew is also here with me. Andrew, how's things?
They're something, man. Me and G recorded the first half of this podcast 4 days ago. Things were looking good. We were all fired up for Houston, and then things happened in that series. It was one hell of a weekend.
Yeah, honestly, I overall think this weekend was easily the weirdest weekend of baseball I can remember the Yankees having. Because
for sure, dude. Because just like the tone of our fan base and myself, like I'm gonna take full blame. Like I was all down, like in the gutter again. Like it took 2 ninth-inning comeback. Well, I guess 1 ninth-inning comeback, 1 eighth-inning comeback, and then an extra innings win. But like it took these down to their
astronomical wins,
right?
Yeah,
ripping victory from the jaws of defeat type things, just to split a series against the Houston Astros at home. There's already so much intensity and passion and emotion involved when you play these teams. Then you get Jose Altuve getting the fuck Altuve chance all weekend and just tormenting us in the face of it.
Yeah.
You mix in Saturday's game, which we'll get into, and I'm just going to leave it at that before I bash my head against the counter before we even start the podcast. Wild, man.
Yeah, no, this weekend to me, it was easily the biggest series of the year because the one theme for this Yankee season so far is, yeah, they're good. They have a really good record, but they can't beat good teams. Then they've gone out and they've bashed around the Jays. They've, found ways to beat the Rays. They took a series against the Twins. They've done the business they needed to against the good teams they faced, and now they played the Astros, who are their biggest competition in the American League, and I don't even think that's an exaggeration.
I would make an argument that they're the second best team in all of baseball. Like
The Yankees.
The Mets have a slightly better record than the Astros, I think.
Yeah, I think
but the Astros
the
took
Mets
2 in a row off the Mets.
The Mets, to me, too, have a lot more holes than the Astros do.
At least right now. Obviously,
Yeah.
when they get DeGrom and Scherzer back, they'll be a better team. But right now,
exactly.
I think the Astros are better than them today.
Yeah, so if you look at the Yankees, you have them at number 1 and the Astros at number 2. So this was a clash of the Titans here, and the series looked like it was going to be unbelievable with Thursday's win, with Hicks's, game-tying 3-run homer, Judge with the walk-off. And even with the first, inning and a half of that series where you had the Tucker 3-run homer, or who hit the 3-run homer in the first inning? Bregman.
Tucker had the 3-run
Severino.
homer on Friday night.
Yeah. Off of Severino, Stanton follows up with a 3-run homer, and then Alvarez immediately hits one out.
You're all over the place.
I'm all over the place. This is
Sevy was Friday.
Yeah. I'm all over I got so mixed up.
The point remains is that
it was 6-3 going into the bottom of the second inning on Thursday, and I think everyone was gearing up for just like a wild series. And then it was 6-3 in the bottom of the ninth in the bottom of the ninth inning. The bottom of the second inning to the bottom of the ninth inning on Thursday, you could just skip. Nothing happened, The only fun thing that happened, the only notable thing that happened was Rizzo's 16-pitch at bat.
Yeah. Outside of that, the Yankees had, one hit between the third and eighth innings?
I don't even know if they had one hit.
And then Houston couldn't do anything against the mop-up guys. They had Albert Abreu, welcome back, and Miguel Castro all pitched in that game, kept Houston off the board, kept us in it to allow the ninth inning heroics.
Yeah. And
very weird game.
Honestly, shout out to Tyone too, because he had nothing.
No,
and he really did a good job of
for a while.
Yeah, he settled down and just kind of dealt with it. And obviously it was not his best start, especially in the first 2 innings, but overall he powered through it. And then Hicks game tying 3-run homer off Ryan Presley, Judge walk off. It was one of, if not the best, ninth inning of the year, and the Yankees at that time, that was their ninth walk-off of the year, and it goes to show you how this team is just they're so resilient, because any lead is not safe, and that's why I think we got so upset with Friday and Saturday, because the offense was lifeless.
Yeah, and to be honest, look, I don't want to gloss over it. I also don't want to harp on it too much, so let's just get it out of the way now.
Mm.
The offense has been pretty anemic all week. Now, you look at even those 3 games against Tampa Bay, they had a 2-0 lead early, and then Cole pitched his brains out. They got those 2 cheap runs off Holmes, and then it took 2 runs in the ninth for them to win that game. So they had 2 runs through the first 8 innings. Didn't really do much there. Yeah, I know they won, and that's what you got to do. You got to grind out and win. Fine. Next game, they, again, had 2 runs all the way to the ninth inning. Marwin hit a 2-run home run. Judge pinch hit one of the track that would have tied it, but it didn't leave. But again, 2 runs into the ninth inning. They scored 2 to lose 5-4. And then the game after that, it was a similar situation. I think they scratched at a few runs earlier, but they ended up, what was the final score of that? Oh, that was the game with, again, the late home run by Jose Trevino.
Yeah.
So they've been playing very, very sluggish offensively out the chute, and they've been playing from behind a lot. The Astros had a lead in all 4 of these games this weekend.
Yeah, exactly.
Early. The Yankees never led before the ninth inning or 10th inning in any of the 4 games. And that's concerning that the offense is kind of in a slumber now over the 162 game stretch. They're probably going to figure it out. Maybe it's just a credit to Houston saw something that they knew they could attack certain zones. But I saw the Yankees taking a lot more pitches like down the middle, so that's concerning. So I guess we'll see.
Yeah, that is a good point. Just because this week really was not a great offensive week, but it's not that big of a deal because you look at it, they went 4-3 this week against the Rays and the Astros. And honestly, this stretch right here where they went Rays, Jays, Rays, Astros, they swept the Rays. They took 2 or 3 from the Jays. They took 2 or 3 from the Rays. They split against the Astros. That's what you got to do, Even if the offense was dog shit this week, it's still they managed to go 4-3, which when you're a good team, you find ways to win games when you're not playing well. And that's what they did.
I just wish they didn't have to make us sweat it out all game.
Oh,
right?
no, and that's what I'm
wait
saying.
Wait for 8th or 9th inning heroics.
That's why, and it goes back to my point of that's why Friday and Saturday's losses hurt so much, because that was not the 2022 Yankees team. That was the 2021 Yankees team,
For sure.
Where they just had no life at all. Where this team, it's like, okay, even when the offense is struggling, they find life. They find a way to scratch it out. Like today, they were no hit into the 7th inning. Stanton hits a home run. DJ ties it in the 8th inning. They found a way to win today, which they had no business winning today's game.
And look, every single run in this series, outside of Judge's walk-off double on Thursday night, was scored via the home run.
Yeah.
And look, I'm not gonna get back into the old home runs are bad, blah, blah, blah. But the team has been better at finding ways to score runs outside of the home run. They've been hitting plenty of home runs, but they've also been able to score runs in other ways, and they weren't doing that this week.
That's why they've been so good offensively this year, is because they've been hitting the amount of home runs that they were supposed to hit, but they've also been scoring runs in other ways that aren't home runs, which is why
that's what really gives you a lot of
momentum. Yeah, that's why they have like 8 or 9 games with 10 plus runs this year, where last year they had 3, I think.
No, it was more than that. I think it may have been like 10 or 11, but that was over the course of the whole season.
Nearly that much. I think they have more this year than they did all of last year in terms of 10-run games.
I'd have to check. I know the team was so roller coaster last year, where they were dreadful for stretches, but then they also won like 10 out of 12 multiple times.
Yeah, exactly.
So
no, it's so weird because you look at this series and they could have so easily gotten swept.
Which would have been just disastrous.
It would have been awful. And
in the long scheme of things of the season doesn't mean anything. But we would have been like the amount of weight that you feel from just like saying like how as good as this team is going to be, if this is how you're going to play against the team you're probably going to face in October, what the hell's the point of everything else you're doing?
Yeah, exactly. Which again is it has to be such a relief for them that they swept, because the offense just was not. The offense didn't show up today. You look at
that they didn't get swept.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah.
No, it's just innings 1 through 7 of this series, they scored 4 runs, and that came. Or
3 of that was the first inning.
5 runs, 3 in the first, and all 5 of those runs were on home runs by Stanton.
Yeah. He had a home run in every game except Saturday.
Yeah. Well, obviously, when they got no hit, but yeah, first inning 3-run homer on Thursday. What was it? I think it was 7th inning homer. Mid game homer on Friday, and then 7th inning homer today. And that's all the runs they scored until the entire series, until the 8th inning, and then
and they didn't even seem close to scoring runs in some of those other games. I know they had men on base on Friday. They had some opportunities, but it never really seemed like they were close. It wasn't two guys on. You had a ball in a gap that a left fielder made a nice diving catch on.
It never really seemed like they were. It was a jam the Astros got out of. It was like,
we were just waiting for the guys to hit a big home run that never came. So it was just the worst inning for me was, I think it was against Montero on Friday, when DJ lit off at the single, which was the
Mhm.
last hit they had until Stanton's home run this afternoon.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. And then I think Rizzo walked, and in between them, Judge struck out, and then you had probably Donaldson and Stanton also struck out
Yeah.
in the opposite order. So like that was the moment. They were down 3-1 in that game. You had two guys on, one out. You're like, all right, well, this team always comes back
Yeah, and
late.
you
They did it last
you
night.
got
They do it tonight.
Stanton
But like
and
those guys were just
Donaldson.
getting up there thinking home runs. And
Yeah, you got Stanton and Donaldson coming up, and the way this team's going, you're just thinking, all right, well, here's the moment right here, and it didn't happen, which is kind
one
of
thing
out of
I
the
noticed
ordinary.
though is that they were super antsy against Justin Verlander. Like he had 40 pitches
Yeah.
through 2 innings. You're like, I can get this guy out after 5, even if he shuts us out. Who cares? Right? We'll get to their bullpen.
Hmm.
And then there was a couple innings where he threw like 5, 6, 7 pitches. Judge was swinging on the first pitch almost every at bat on
I think
Saturday.
he only had like 3
Friday.
strikeouts too.
Yeah,
in
well, yeah, he
7
was swinging
innings.
early. He was putting contact on the ball, but he wasn't really doing much with it. So like, I don't
Yeah.
hate the aggression, but also if you're gonna give away at bats, you're helping out the pitcher more
Yeah.
than you're.
Oh no, you're talking about Judge. I'm talking about Verlander.
Yeah.
I think Verlander only had like 3 strikeouts total in that game.
Oh yeah, he was pitching to contact, and they just
Yeah,
weren't.
exactly, which is not very Verlander like. Like I remember in the 2019 ALCS, which obviously was 3 years ago, but that game, the game 2 where Verlander pitched, it just seemed like every single at bat, Verlander would throw a fastball strike, curveball strike, and then the Yankees would be down 0-2, and they'd either just have to foul off a pitch or they'd strike out. And it's almost
George
like
Springer Adam Ottavino game.
Yeah, it was.
Oh,
Judge hit a 2-run homer. That was the
The
game.
Yankees had the lead in that game. You thought,
They
like,
had
oh my
the
God, we're
lead.
going to
Judge hit a
Houston, win
2-run
2
homer
games.
off Verlander. That was the game. Paxton went out after like 2 innings. Springer hit the homer off Ottavino, and then Correa hit the walk-off off Happ.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. But it seems like today they were, like you said, they were just swinging early in the count and just trying to make contact against Verlander, which is not what you do against him. He's the
He's the
exact
guy who's going to strike you out, but he's going to give up a couple of home runs. Like Cole.
Exactly.
Like, wait for your pitch and hammer it.
Verlander multiple times has led the league in home runs allowed. He's very similar to Garrett Cole, which is why 2019 the two of them just were unbelievable as a 1-2 punch in the order, because they're strikeout guys who are hard throwers, but because they're so hard, who rely on their off speed to get their strikeouts, they're going to give up home runs. You make a mistake with an off speed pitch or you throw a fastball down the middle, it's going to go a long way. So the reason they were able to be so good is because they would just not give up any base runners. And the Yankees just kind of like ignored that on Friday, it seemed.
Yeah, that was a rough game. I know you had Judge hit that ball to the warning track in the first inning. Donaldson hit the ball to the track. That was a ground rule double in the second. There were a couple other balls that were hit. I think Glaber hit one to the track to lead off the ninth. They were down 2 runs. There were some that kind of just seemed to either die or maybe they got topspinned a little bit. I don't know if it was a dead ball thing because Tucker's home run was hit to the moon. So
yeah,
it definitely wasn't a dead ball situation.
That Tucker home run was such a like perfect piece of hitting too, because fastball inside and he just turned on that. Like that's what you do with a fastball inside. And
I kind of love the Hardo thing that like him and Matt Carpenter do with the no batting gloves, and they have like that weird it almost seems like their elbows never bend. They're just swinging like straight arms, like they're just swinging the tree trunk.
I was just about to
hit
say
the ball,
that.
like clobber it.
It looks like Tucker to me. I don't understand how he generates so much power because
mechanics are weird.
His mechanics are so weird.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't look like he has any power coming when he swings because his arms just look like they're so straight, and he doesn't look like he's swinging the right way.
Very similar to Brad Miller, the way he swings.
Yeah, it's very weird, but whatever. Obviously, it works for him.
Yeah, he's a great hitter, and I remember I was sitting next to someone at the game on Friday. And he just kept saying like, "Oh, this guy's a good hitter, 46 RBIs. There we go." And like the next pitch, he hit the tank. It's just like, Jesus Christ. like he was like an older guy, right? Like
Yeah.
anyone who's a real like a fan like knows who Kyle Tucker is. They don't need to like doesn't matter what his stats are, like what he's capable of.
Yeah,
this guy's
exactly.
looking up at his stats on the scoreboard. It's like, oh, 14 home runs, 13 home runs. This guy's a good hitter. And then like the next pitch he hit it, and then he just wouldn't stop talking about it. It's like, you know what actually got me in that game, and it's not gonna get talked about. And ultimately, Sevy still made the bad pitch, so it may be nothing. But Yordan Alvarez came up right beforehand, and I'm saying to myself, you got to intentionally walk him. Like he hit the 3-run home run last night. He's been white hot. Like intentionally walk him. What are you doing? Sevy tried to work around him and ended up walking him on 5 pitches. Those are 5 extra pitches he threw. And then when you throw balls, now you try and force something over the plate a little more, and that's why I think he may have gotten burned. Granted, that wasn't a bad pitch he threw to Tucker, but like I wonder if he just said, just throw up the 4 fingers. Like Alvarez going to reach anyway. Like let's save the bullets in the chamber and actually focus on Tucker, kind of thing.
Yeah. One thing I have not understood is that since they implemented the automatic intentional walk thing, how teams don't use it more. Like if you know you're going to try and pitch around someone, just do it, you know? Like especially 9th inning against Judge on Thursday. Who was it that was whoever was pitching to Stanek immediately just throws around him 3-0 right down the middle.
At that point, there's nothing good that's going to come out of that at bat.
No,
they've already tried the game.
3-0 on Aaron Judge with the winning run in scoring position, and you have a base open. In what planet do you throw him a strike?
Yeah, like pitching to Aaron Judge on 3-0 with the winning run on second base, or dealing with Anthony Rizzo with the bases loaded.
And there was 2 outs at that point. I think there's 1 or 2 outs at that point. Like there's no excuse for that, you know.
No.
Rizzo has had a very good year. He's he's close. He has 19-ish, 18 or 19 home runs. He's had his up and down stretches, but overall he's had a very good year. I would face him 100 times out of 100 over Judge right now.
Yeah,
and Judge,
especially in that spot because Judge already had 3 balls on the
exactly.
count.
And Judge did not do much this weekend. He had the walk-off hit and he had the walk-off homer today, and those were the only hits he had.
Mm-hmm.
And overall, Judge has not been doing great in the last, I'd say, 2 weeks or so. He's
gotten his home runs.
He's gotten his home runs, but he hasn't done really much of anything else. And even then, there is no excuse for throwing Judge a strike on 3-0 with the winning run in scoring position.
No, he's in the zone right now. Even if he's not getting his hits in the 4th, 5th, 6th innings of games, you bring him up with a chance to win the ball game, like he's locked in. It doesn't matter if he's over his last 18. You trust that he's going to get a hit in that spot.
Well, and the thing that is so impressive about him is that he's not just hitting fastballs. You look at the pitch he hit for a home run today. That was a curveball that just broke right over the heart of the plate.
Let's just talk about that though. I think they classified it as a slider. It did look like a curveball though, but like that thing was knee high, center cut of the plate. Like that was a horrible pitch.
It was a terrible pitch. Yeah.
You know what else was a horrible pitch? The Stanton home run that broke up the 2nd straight no-hitter today. That was a 91.9 mile per hour fastball. That's what they classified it. I could just say 92, but I think 91.9 is funnier. Literally right down the middle, perfectly down the middle as you could possibly see. Like a 92 mile per hour fastball.
Do against those when you're a home run hitter, you hit it to the moon.
So part of us were like, "Oh my God, thank you, Stanton, to hit a run. We're not going to get no hit." And I'm thinking like he should have been. They should have left him in New York when they make their next road trip. If he didn't do that,
exactly.
Like, you have to.
Yeah, and one thing about Stanton is that his average is not very high right now. I think he's around 240-ish. And he, ever since he got back off the IL, he's really been a little off.
He's hit 5, 6 home runs, but really not much
he's hit his home run, and he's hit his home runs though, and he's
drawn some walks.
He hit 3 home runs this series, so his mechanics are there. I think his timing is off. So I don't personally, especially after this series, I'm not worried about Stanton at all.
I am worried about though? Josh Donaldson. He looks cooked.
Donaldson looks awful. Yeah. And he's looked awful probably he looked really good in the Chicago series when they were in Chicago against the White Sox.
Mhm.
And I think after that, he hit home runs in back-to-back games that series, and I think we were all like, all right, Donaldson's finally starting to come out of it, and he's done nothing.
And then he got hurt, then he got COVID, and
Yeah.
you wonder if that still has lingering effects. But
And that's a good point, just because you look at Rizzo last year, he got COVID, came back, was not the same. And COVID, one thing we've come to learn is that players who get COVID, it has a lasting impact on them, even if they're
on some people are fine. Some people,
Yeah.
they're
But
feeling
if
like
you're,
that for a month.
even if you're asymptomatic, it's just like it has some type of effect that you just it screws you up.
Yeah, and even if it's not even physical, it's the fact that you're away from the team for 5-6 games, and that alone
Exactly.
could fuck your timing.
Yeah, and you can't, practice in the batting cages or anything. You can't take fly balls. You can't take batting practice, anything. You have to be in quarantine, and that really can really screw up your mechanics. Like, imagine if you're just stuck in a hotel room for 5 days, you're gonna go a little stir crazy, and it's just not gonna do anything great for you.
Yeah.
So
like Donaldson, it's at a point where I almost think that they need to make an excuse to either play DJ at third base more, or play Matt Carpenter more. But like the whole Gleyber Torres injury today,
I was just
that
about
may
to
happen
say
on
that.
its own anyway. So like,
Yeah. Well, and
DJ's got to play second base every day.
DJ's got to
for
play
at least a few
second
days.
base, and then I think at this point they platoon Donaldson and Carpenter.
Yeah, and look, man, IKF, it's another guy that like the Yankees are still winning games, they're still in first place by double digits, but that dude is just I didn't want to be so right about him, like, oh, we got an all glove, no bat.
I wanted
Shortstop who
IKF
doesn't
to
have a
be
glove.
another Cashman gem. I think we all wanted IKF to be a gem, but he came in as a defensive wizard who's gonna hit a bunch of singles and not do much else. And
He's not hitting, he's booting a bunch of balls.
He's done none of that. He had give him credit. He did get the second hit, Yankees' second hit of the game. But he just, when he goes up to bat, he doesn't look like he knows what he's doing. He's moving his bat all over the place. It's not in like a consistent fashion that he's doing it. Like, that's not his mechanics. That's just him.
He had like a Justin Turner like leg kick going on in spring training, and that's gone. Like that, whatever mechanics he's working on, that went out the window.
He has no mechanics at this point. He's just going up there and swinging, and he has contact abilities, so he's not striking out, but he has negative power.
Yeah,
so
we're
all
on the
he's
precipice
doing
of
is
July, and he has 0 home runs.
Yeah, he's he'll hit a pop up or two, or he'll just hit a weak ground ball. And honestly, the guy only has like 8 or 9 career home runs as it is, so he's not going to hit 15, 20 home runs. But you'd think with the short porch in right field, he would accidentally run into one. He's pretty good at going oppo when he's actually kind of hitting. So you'd think he might.
Has he actually? I know he can, but I feel like most of his, even like his ground ball outs, I feel like almost everything's pulled right now.
Yeah, no. Now that he's struggling,
he could go oppo, and he'd be a better hitter if he sprayed the ball over the field more. But
yeah, if he sprayed the ball over the field more, he could be much closer to a 300 hitter. But right now he's at like 240-ish.
That's just not going to cut it if you're a glove.
Especially, and that's not going to cut
back up the repetition.
That'll cut it when you're Giancarlo Stanton and you have 16, 17 home runs at this point. You're going to end up hitting 30 to 35 home runs. But when you're IKF and you're going to hit 1 home run in a year, have a 630 OPS, and only be known for your defense, hitting 240 is not going to do anything. Like, he hit 270 last year and still had like a 670 OPS. Like, that's how little power.
Me and G both said this on the first half of this episode the other night, but at what point do you just say, like, you got to start Marwin Gonzalez as shortstop more?
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's not a great hitter by any means, but he makes all the plays.
So Marwin has 2 more home runs than IKF and that like half the at bats.
He's a switch hitter. He's got a little more.
And
He's a little more
I get it.
veteran
I don't
seasoned.
think the Yankees want to tie him down to one position because the majority of his value to this team is the fact that he can essentially play 7
6
positions in the
positions.
field.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
But if you get to the All-Star break and IKF is still playing like this, you got to reevaluate after the All-Star break,
And there's really not a ton of internal options. So
No.
even if it's just like picking up someone off waivers or signing like
Just
another
making
Matt Carpenter or something.
Yeah, just finding someone. And
Or hell, look, I'll say it because I didn't want this to be. We joked about this in the off season, like, oh, I don't want it to be Andrelton Simmons, but like the Cubs suck and they're
Cubs
probably
aren't
gonna tear
going
it down.
anywhere.
I think Simmons is a better option than IKF right now, and I hate myself for saying
And
that.
it's because Simmons actually is playing well defensively. Or he's actually good defensively. IKF has just made some brutal errors. Like in the 10th inning today, to lead off, I forget who hit the ball, but it was Altuve. He just booted an easy ground ball to get Jose Altuve out. Like, you
he probably got
cannot
worried
do
about his
that.
speed. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
so
you
bad.
cannot do that. If it was Yordan Alvarez and they got a weak ground ball to shortstop and he boots it, okay, not great, not the end of the world. Alvarez doesn't have overly wonderful speed. Altuve is one of the faster players in the Astros. You cannot allow someone like that to get on by an error. And it wasn't even like he was
No,
rushing
and
it. He just straight up booted that ball. So
yeah, and thank God Mike King worked out of it
I know.
because that could have been really, really ugly.
It could have gone downhill so fast.
But look,
And
let's just quickly. I mean, I don't want to like completely deny the fact
annihilate
that we
IKF.
got no hit on Saturday because it sucked, and we could talk about it. Like they seemed very much off on Javier. And he's throwing like 94, 95. So I don't know if
Yeah.
it was the way he was hiding the ball or they're just off as a team.
What I've
timing-wise.
seen with Javier in the past is that his fastball plays up and he's very good at using it in scenarios where he knows it's going to throw off the player's balance.
So it's like a Chad Green type thing.
Exactly. Like 2007 Chad Green or 2017 Chad Green. And he has his off speed pitches too, and he's very good at keeping players off balance. And the last couple of years he was in the bullpen, so he'd only throw 3 innings maximum for the Astros. But this year they're using him as a starter, and the Yankees literally could not touch him yesterday.
Yeah, and then look, Joey Gallo hit that ball that I'm just gonna say it because I'm pretty much sick of him. Most competent left-handed power hitters hit that ball out.
Yeah.
He barreled it at 112 miles per hour, but his stupid, awful, embarrassing swing trajectory where it's like crazy overseated uppercut hit the ball at a 42-degree launch angle and it went 35 feet. It didn't even make the short porch. Like you hit the ball that hard and hit it in the sweet spot, and you can't clear 340 distance.
You hit a ball
so
112 miles an hour, and you hit it in the air. There's no excuse for that ball not to go out unless you hit it to center field. Like, obviously, you can hit the ball really well. It just goes straight into the ground. But Gallo hits a 112-mile-an-hour fly ball. Why is that not going out? Oh, yeah, he hit it straight up.
42-degree launch angle.
I get the whole launch angle movement because you're trying to elevate the ball more. You hit the ball harder. You elevate the ball. It's going to go
the launch
further.
angle movement is don't hit the ball at 17 miles an hour. Hit the same line drive at 28 miles an hour, and it's going to clear the fence.
Yeah. But Gallo is like the extreme where everything he hits is straight up. Like, I think back to his first home run last year with the Yankees where he hit a sky-high pop-up that got out down the right field line for the 3-run home run against Seattle. And you just look at Gallo's swing, and he just looks so easy to pitch to because You get one strike on him. You can throw it. You just throw a fastball like on the corner, strike one. He's not going to swing at it because he doesn't swing at the first pitch. Throw him an off-speed pitch, strike. Strike two or ball one. Then you just pound him upstairs with fastballs because of his swing trajectory, and he just with his uppercut, he cannot hit a high fastball, and
That's
he
the thing,
doesn't
too. They've just been
adjust
abusing him in
and
the high
not
fastballs
swing
all
at
year.
them. Like Aaron Judge's biggest adjustment this year and for the better part of last year was that he's learned to lay off speed away, because that was his kryptonite when he was a rookie in 2018, 2019, when he didn't play as much because of injuries. But his kryptonite was two strikes on him, throw him a slider low and away, he's going to swing and miss at it. If you execute it, he's toast. Now he has adjusted, and it's so much harder to get him out because of that.
Mm-hmm. You got to make a pitch in the right spot.
Exactly.
And you talk about Aaron Judge, and just like his swing is so free and easy, and he hits the ball. He has the second highest average exit velocity in the Statcast era, behind only Stanton, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he looks like he's just so easy, just like a little load, raise his leg, move his hands back a little bit, just kind of bring it through the zone, boom. 120 miles an hour off the bat, whatever. It's like he's not even trying. Whereas Gallo, even if you look at his facial expressions and the way he torques his body, his cheeks pop out, his chest is pushed out, like he's doing a bench press. There shouldn't be that much of your swing shouldn't be from your shoulders and chest. It's got to be your hips, dude. Every major league hitter knows this, and his is all upper body, and that's why it's not successful.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and you look at a guy like Stanton, Stanton's a freak of nature with the way he hits the ball. But his swing is so level, and he hit. Sometimes it doesn't work out for him, but other times, you see Stanton connect on a ball, it's gone, because the way his swing path goes, when he makes contact, that ball is dead. With Gallo, like he did today, he can barrel a ball up and hit a fly and get a fly out. Stanton barrels a ball up, it goes 450 feet.
Stanton hit two balls to the second deck in right field as a right-handed hitter in Yankee Stadium this weekend.
Yeah, that's not easy to do.
No.
That's not something anyone can do. Whereas Gallo barrels a ball up and hits it to the warning track on a field that...
on a hot summer day.
Yeah.
Where the ball should travel.
Exactly.
And,
I hate to just rat on players who aren't playing well right now, because, the Yankees are still a very, very good team. They've had such an unbelievably fun season so far. But there's just a few guys on this team who are have been zeros, less than zero. Mm-hmm. And Hicks gets a pass for a week because of his home run on Thursday.
Yeah, my most hated player list has changed pretty much week to week.
Yeah.
But over the last few weeks, it's really stabilized. But IKF and Gallo are very comfortably in that, and then everyone else is kind of up for grabs, whoever's not playing well in the moment.
Yeah, and honestly,
Hicks has worked his way out, yeah.
I wouldn't say that I've been a Gallo apologist this season, but I've been much more lenient with him because I know he's good defensively, and this is the type of hitter he is, where he's a three true outcomes guy: home run, walk, strikeout. But if you're good defensively, which he has been, I can comfortably say he's been solid defensively this year. But he's not a three true outcomes guy. He's a one true outcome with a couple of the other two mixed in. Mm-hmm. I think before today, Gallo was over his last 15 with 10 strikeouts. And he didn't play today, so he's 0 for his last 15 with 10 strikeouts.
That's just so bad, man. I know, blah blah blah, strikeouts don't matter. It's yeah, except they kind of do. They're better than hitting into a double play, sure, but that's about it.
And with him, I think I've done this before where I compared him to Mark Teixeira, where Teixeira was getting shifted on, and he was either hitting it right into the shift or striking out, because he struck out a lot, but he would make up for it by hitting home runs. But once the shift started becoming a thing, he said, I'm not gonna try and go opposite field because I'm not an opposite field hitter. But he still made up for it by hitting home runs, whereas Gallo is like the same type of thing, but he doesn't hit the home runs to make up for it. All he does is just like pop balls up, hit them right into the shift, or strike out. Even the few hits he's gotten in the last couple weeks have been like line drives that have gotten through the shift or like over the right fielder's head. Like he hasn't done anything against the shift.
No,
Every single one
you
of
would
his
say
hits have just been hit hard enough to beat the shift.
his best hit was probably that 2-run home run he hit in Toronto. Of
Yeah.
course, that was with the game at like 10-1 and put him up 12-1. So thanks, Joey. You really helped us win that game. But yeah, I kind of thought he may have started looking like he was turning a corner because I think he had an RBI double earlier in that game or the night before or the night after, something like that. And you're like, well, is he finally figuring it out? He was starting to grow out that mustache. You're like, maybe this is some good juju.
Yeah, you're like, all right,
And he's
maybe
just been
maybe some good things are
garbage
starting to
since.
happen here. And then since then, he's done nothing but strike out.
Yeah. So like one thing I will say about the Yankees team though, and we kind of said it beforehand, but like it's very important go forward, is that they got to start playing from leads, man. Like they've been playing from behind almost every game this week, and they're a good team. They have a lot of resolve. They're going to come back a bunch, but you don't want to force yourself into a come from behind situation every night. Like it's going to catch up to you eventually.
No, you cannot. You cannot win every single game that you're losing. Obviously, they have 20 something, 25 come from behind wins this year, which that's great that they have the resilience to, when they're losing, come back. But that shouldn't be your mindset of, okay, we'll be fine, we'll just come back later on.
I forget what the stat is. It might have been like a Katie Sharp one, but it said something like the Yankees are like one game above or at 500 when they've trailed at any point in that game, and that's the best record in baseball.
Oh yeah,
so, like, that just shows you the state of the major leagues.
Unbelievable record.
If at any point in time you're behind, the odds are you're going to lose that game. Now, a lot of times you could be down 1-0 in the first inning and then score 2 runs right back, and then you're fine. You're playing from the lead the rest of the game. But teams that, if you have played 70 games and at any point in time you've been behind to your opponent in 40 of those games, you're lucky if your record's 20-20, right?
Oh yeah, exactly.
And it's not saying like just being behind at any point isn't a death sentence by any means, but you're going to win 40 to 45% of those games, not 70. So,
well, and you think about it too, it's like the games that stat, okay? Anytime they've trailed, they're about 500. That includes blowout games like the one in Minnesota they lost 8-1, or just yesterday's no hitter. That includes those games. So you take out the games that they really had no chance of.
Yeah, they
winning.
were out.
They were just out of it. That gives them an over 500 record on games they were on, like close-ish games that they were losing in.
Yeah,
that's unheard of.
It's great.
But at the same time, that's all, odds are they're not going to keep that up.
Well, look, and that's why you get the meltdowns between our fan base. Like, I'm sure you felt a little bit. I did a little more. I'm just going to own it. But, like, when you are constantly behind, especially when you're not used to being behind, and you look lifeless at the plate, you start panicking. You start thinking, like, well, this team has lost it. And, yeah, they've come back a lot. But especially like this afternoon, I kind of I had to shut the game off for a couple innings. Like after they got no hit through 5 innings,
it was rough
getting
to
no
watch.
hit yesterday, and being in the ballpark on Friday and seeing what they did then, it just seemed like they were a little apathetic. And I know that's probably not the case, but they looked lethargic and almost like, oh well, I guess today's not our day. It's like, what do you guys? still else. Like, do something, make something happen.
Well,
And I wasn't getting that then.
honestly, it seemed like that one span of games, I want to say it was in 2016, where they went like 25 innings or something like that without scoring a run. And you just didn't think they were ever going to score again.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't like they were just getting a bunch of base runners and just weren't getting the big hit. It was Friday they had some base runners standing at the home run, and then Saturday they legitimately got no hit. Today they got no hit through 6 innings. Like they went, I think it was the Astros streak was 16 and a third straight innings without a hit in one series against the Yankees.
Yeah.
Unless you're the most
optimistic.
Unless you're the most
It's technically
optimistic
3 outs
person on
more.
the planet, you're gonna look at that and just feel down about it, you know?
Yeah, and again, like if they just played like shit against a random opponent, like a really good pitching, or they just had an off series on the road, like the West Coast, those late night games. I don't know. Like you don't want to lose to like the Mariners, but if they lost 2 out of 3 in Seattle on the road, like whenever they play them, it's like
it's not the end of the world.
It's fine. But when it's Houston
at
and
home,
like,
you gotta win.
Yeah, and it's just, I think it's what kind of amplifies it is the fact that they've eliminated us from the playoffs 3 of the last 7 years already, and you just start all those bad memories come back. Like, well, look, this Houston team has our number again. If we meet them in the playoffs, they're going to beat us again, and how am I going to deal with that again? I can't psychologically, like, this is supposed to be our year, right? And I don't want to let myself believe anything long term for this team, like until it happens. I'm taking it day by day. I'm happy with the state they are right now. I'm not looking too much in the foreground, but when you see yourself getting beat by Houston again, you start thinking like, well, if we play them in October, are we really going to lose these guys again? And we're going to be the Minnesota Twins to their Yankees. Like that's going to be the situation. You start feeling that.
I honestly had that thought today where I was like, man, if the Yankees just cannot beat the Astros, what happens when the ALCS this year is Yankees Astros again? The Astros knock the Yankees out in 6 games again, and all of a sudden we're just like, instead of being the Yankees, we're just the team that the Astros look at when it's just like the second best team in the American League that physically cannot.
Every year we go to the World
one.
Series, we got to go through the Yankees first, and we do it no problem.
Yeah, they just. I think you said it the other day. The Astros came in here, and Thursday obviously didn't help, but the last 2 days it just seemed like they weren't fazed by anything.
No, they have a swagger about them.
They didn't come in here thinking, all right, well, you know, we're going for a split here because this Yankees team obviously is good. You know, we don't know what we're going for. They came in here thinking, all right, yeah, we can beat the Yankees. The Yankees obviously are good. We can beat them. And they almost did. They almost swept the series. So, I don't know.
Oh, God, man. And those fuck Altuve chants all weekend.
Yeah, it's honestly,
like, clearly it's not working, and you're not getting his head.
You know, I think it was Dusty Baker said the other day where he was like, eventually they'll forget about it. And honestly, I hate to say it, but I'm siding with him. Like, guys, come on. You know, and again, the Astros cheating scandal was 5 years ago. They were caught for it 3 years ago. I don't want to say it's in the rearview mirror, but like at this point, the Astros are not cheating at Yankee Stadium. This is the team they are.
And I know some of the people who are beneficiaries of that are still on their roster, but like, who is the ringleader? Carlos Beltran. Where is he? Working for the Yes Network in the booth this weekend.
Yeah. Who was one of the
guys who had a career year?
I was going to say one of the guys who had one of the best seasons of his career.
Marwin Gonzalez in the Yankees dugout.
Yeah.
AJ Hinch not managing in the opposing dugout. Like
George Springer in Toronto. Carlos Correa in Minnesota. I think one of the trivia questions for the Astros for this series was, who are the 5 players that are still on the Astros roster from 2017? And it's Altuve, Verlander, McCullers, Bregman, and
probably Maldonado, right?
No, I don't. It might have been. It might have been Maldonado. But
If
like,
not, maybe I'm trying to think who else was their outfield. They had like Marisnik and
yeah,
Reddick.
Yeah, it was Marisnik and Reddick. They had Brian McCann as one of their catchers. It was it was
Gaddis was the
oh
other one.
Gurriel.
Yeah,
It's Gurriel. It's Gurriel.
Gurriel, duh, of
Yeah,
course.
Altuve, Gurriel, Bregman, Verlander, McCullers are the 5 players on this team that were on the 2017 team. So it's not even like this is the same exact team from 2017. Obviously, you have 2 of the main players in Bregman and Altuve. Gurriel is, I don't know what to say about him. He's been unbelievably bad this year. Verlander is Verlander. McCullers has been injured for the past decade, it seems.
Yeah.
So, at this point, it's like obviously Altuve is going to be the main guy you focus on because he's the villain. Every Yankees fan hates Altuve,
Yes.
but at some point we're going to have to get over that because the Yankees got to take the high road and like not let the Astros get to them.
No, and so look, we have a single game against them in a couple of weeks in Houston, and then we go, and I think right out of the All-Star break, there's the doubleheader. The series against Houston's weird because it was the second series of the regular season that got
it's
displaced
to
because
make
of
up for the
the lockout and the delayed start. The Texas series, which was supposed to start the season, now ends the season, but the Houston series, they kind of just had to fit it in on some off days. So we don't like go there for 3 days, and it'll be weird. We'll play them, but it'll kind of just be like a blip on the radar. So this was like the series against them this year, and it could have gone better. I would have preferred not
better.
to get no
It could
hits.
have gone. It could have ended so much worse, though.
Yes,
I would
yeah,
like. I'm not. I don't want to say it could have gone worse because it didn't go great. The Yankees, the Astros, I would say, are more to blame for the loss. Their 2 losses than the Yankees are for their 2 wins.
Yeah, and like I said to G on Wednesday when we did the first part of this episode, I said like I'd be happy with the split, and we split, and I'm happy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not happy with how they got the split.
You're not happy with how they got the split, but
don't get me wrong,
point,
walk-off wins are fantastic, but I hate that they were necessary.
Yeah, you don't want to rely on scoring 3 runs in the last 2 innings to win a game.
Yeah, and then you obviously don't want to get no hit either, but it hasn't happened to us in 19 years, so like
it was bound to happen.
It sucks that there's longer no hitter list streaks still active. Like Cleveland has one, Kansas City might have one.
Kansas City doesn't have one. Kansas City got no hit by the Red Sox in like 2008.
Was that Lester? Was it against the Royals?
Or no, it was it was Lester.
Sure, that wasn't against Oakland.
I don't think so.
I thought I remember seeing that Kansas City hadn't been no hit in like 24 years.
I'm like 90% sure it was against Kansas City. Let me look at it.
It was against Kansas City. Look at you.
John Lester no hitter. The last Red Sox picture having done it to throw a no hitter, having done it to the Kansas City Royals in 2000. Where's the year? I cannot find it.
It's definitely 2008.
2008. We're going with that. But yeah, Lester no hit the Royals. Anyways, I think the biggest takeaway from this series for me is that it was an ugly series in many different ways, but they split. They had 2 very fun wins in the process. Move on. You got your 2 wins out of the 4-game series against the Astros. Focus on that. Forget everything else.
Yeah, I don't think they don't leave this series thinking like, wow, these fuckers have our number.
No.
Now, if they had lost today, if they had gotten like 2 hit and got shut out again, you may feel like that, like, oh shit, we're gonna have to really change something. We play them in October. Now it's kind of like I don't feel great, but I still feel like if we play them in the playoffs, we could beat them. So that's about all you can ask for right now. Like you don't want to have it be a mental block.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think at this point, you just have to move on. Like, your takeaways, like I said, just we split, move on. Play Oakland now. I think anything less than a sweep of Oakland would be a disappointment, especially since it's at home.
Yeah, like you'd like to sweep, but like I don't think you can go into any series
And
because
and
like
no, and
you
that's
should.
and I don't want to immediately go in and be like, okay,
If they lose 2 out of 3, it's bad and it's
yeah,
a real letdown.
they
But
need
you take 2 out of 3
obviously
against a bad team and you move on.
win the series, and that's what they've been so good
They're
at
not
doing.
going to win games at a 75% clip the rest of the
No.
year. But if you just take 2 out of 3 the rest of the season, you can still get to that 110 win
Hmm.
threshold roughly. And then like the most important thing is obviously winning the division, but getting one of the top 2 spots so you get that first round bye in the playoffs. And that's what
Exactly.
we're going to start talking about. I think the magic number, like I can't believe that it's actually a thing. Like they've been so good that people already know what it is. But I think it's something like 78 right now. Like that, so you can't possibly achieve it before the next
Is
few
it
months.
really?
Someone posted a
Wow,
picture of
that's
Luis Hill the other
wild.
day, and it was like the Yankees' magic number is, and Luis Hill's was 81. So that was
That's amazing.
yeah.
That's wild though, because they could legitimately clinch like a top two, like a literal playoff spot by like
August
before
20th. Yeah,
August. Yeah, you know,
yeah. Uh-huh.
like imagine if they're celebrating in August. I
It'd be
can't
weird.
remember.
I don't think you celebrate clinching at worst the 6th playoff spot in a 16 playoff field. I think you maybe celebrate when you've locked up the division, even if that's like
Yeah,
April, even if that's like September 10th. But look, Boston's coming on. Really, they never lose. They like it seems like they never lose, even though we
yeah,
don't really either. That is a team that still scares me because we've played them once the first 3 games of the year, and that's it. So
and that
I
was
got to
when they
see
were
how we
bad
shake up
too.
against them.
The Red Sox started off the year 10-19, and they played at like a 700 winning percentage pace since then. So
Did
the
they
Red
just sweep
Sox right
Cleveland
now
in
are a
Cleveland?
victim. The Red Sox are a victim of a really bad start. If they did not have the terrible start they did, they'd be right up there with the Yankees.
As of recording this Sunday night, they've climbed all the way to second place in the division.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
yeah. Considering just how bad they were at the beginning of the year, like that's
Yeah,
wild to me.
that's terrifying, man.
So yeah, I think I'm right with you with saying the teams I'm scared the most of right now in the American League is the Astros are number one easily. The Red Sox are number two. And if I had to pick a number three, I'd probably go with the Jays. It's like
Yeah, and they're all the way down to
Jays
fourth
and
place.
Rays can like switch out of that spot just because the Jays I will never count out offensively, and the Rays are just the world's most annoying baseball team.
Yeah, the good news is though, should the playoffs start like with current seedings, Houston and New York would get the first round bye,
Mhm.
and then Minnesota would play Toronto, and Boston would play Tampa Bay. So just attrition, one of those guys are going to get eliminated right off the bat. If the AL East has all 3 wildcard spots, one of them is not making it out of the wildcard round. Like
Yeah,
it
that's
can't
true.
can't work. And
Which
then
is
you just hope
which
someone
is
else
good
steps up.
because the Yankees have played very well against the AL East this year, but I'm not confident that they win against the Jays or the Red Sox or the Rays.
See,
Because if you
they've played Toronto enough, they've played Tampa enough that I think they could beat them. I need to see them playing Boston at their best and see how they stack up against them
yeah,
to actually know where that might go. Because remember,
yeah,
they're going to get back Chris Sale later in the year.
yeah, exactly.
Who
And
knows what the hell's going to happen for either team at the deadline?
I'm trying to think off the top of my head right now. Have the Yankees won a playoff series against an AL East team since the Boone home run?
I think that's the last time. Oh
Yeah.
no, sorry. They played the Orioles in 2012.
Okay, yeah, you're right.
That was the last one.
That was the last one. Okay, so the team that I'm not scared of.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you look at the I don't think they've ever played the Jays in the playoffs, and the Red Sox and the Rays in the last 10 years or so, they've lost to. So, it's weird because it seems like the Red Sox and the Rays play in the playoffs like every other year.
Mm-hmm.
But Yeah. I think we can probably wrap it up here.
Yeah, we didn't mean to spend the last 5 minutes lamenting our fate to the Boston Red Sox.
But yeah, thanks everyone for watching. This is a special two-parter episode where Andrew and G went over the the Rays series and just kind of everything before that. The first part, and then me and Andrew just vented about this Astros series. So for me and Andrew, this has been the Bronx Bomber Babble podcast, and we will see you in the next one.